Okay. Hi, this is Me Before Mom, the podcast that helps moms stay connected to themselves while doing the most important job they'll ever have. And I'm your host, Bert Anderson. Hey guys, it is Bert, and you are listening to Me Before Mom. Today, I want to talk to you about something that I think we all as mothers we struggle with. It's something that it's like the second you become a mom, you feel it right away from should I breastfeed my baby or bottle feed my baby? Should I use cloth diapers or disposable diapers? It's like all these different things. And that is mom guilt. So I've been thinking about mom guilt for a while because I don't know if you have noticed, but when you are in a group of mothers, you tend to bond over the guilt that you feel. So, and that's a good thing. I mean, it's a good thing that it brings us together. It's a good thing that we, you know, have that in common and we feel like there are entrusted places where we can go. But sometimes I wonder if maybe we're emphasizing and accepting the guilt too much. So I wanted to look into it because I was like, I can't be the only one who's thinking this, because I'm not that smart, and I'm sure there are other experts who have thought about this. And I found this really interesting article on today's Parent, and it was written by Lauren Smith Brody. And the reason why I decided to read it was because the title is Why Mom Guilt is the Biggest Lie of All. And that totally got me because I was like, what are you talking about? The biggest lie? It is not a lie. It is real. It is a real thing. But what the author, Lauren Smith Brody, has to say is it's really fascinating. It really made me think about it. So she is a working mom. She talks very openly about how, returning from work after she had her baby made her, she was really excited to go back to work, but once she was there, she had to answer all these questions from her coworkers like, "Oh, do you feel so guilty? Oh, let's see, I'm looking at this. How are you doing? Do you miss him so much? Do you have any regrets? Oh, look at that picture. How could you leave him?" Things like that. So as you can see, she is excited. And she says this in the article. She's excited to go back to work. Sure, she misses her son, but she's immediately met with questions circled around this decision that she has made to go back to work and not stay at home. Um, and then she said, within days I felt guilty for all of the work my colleagues had covered for me, guilty for missing God knows how many gummy little smiles, guilty for spending my nighttime nursing sessions scratching at my baby's flaky cradle cap rather than gazing into his eyes or calling the doctor. Guilty when I did call the doctor for taking up her time. She had a new baby too. Guilty for not having felt guilty sooner. And then she says, and this is what really spoke to me. She says, guilt became a reflex. And addictively, it was my indoctrination into the club. And that's when she talks about the monk club. So, and she has a point, like every challenge I feel that I have as a mother in my motherhood journey is met with a decision. And when I compare myself to other moms, I inherently feel guilty every time. And I know that I talk a lot about being kind to yourself and, comparison is the thief of joy. And it's true, but in our society, it is so ingrained in us to feel guilty. And I think a lot of that is because back in the day, our childbearing years happen at the same time as women that the like real growth of our careers begin. So when I was pregnant with my first, I was working at an insurance agency. I had like a year before I got pregnant, I had been given the opportunity to become a supervisor. I was the youngest supervisor that they had in the department. And I immediately, was like, my husband and I had always talked about me staying at home. I wanted to stay at home, but I couldn't help at the same time to be like, okay, but like, look, like I'm making a difference and I'm able to lead people and help them realize their full potential. And that was what I loved about being a supervisor. And I just walked away from it all. And I'm thankful and I am happy with where I am right now. But every once in a while, I think back to it and I think to myself, yeah, what if I hadn't done that? What if I hadn't, you know, made the decision to stay at home? Where would I be right now? And so it's all very interesting because, the farther we get as a society away from our old values and thinking, it's like this internal war that we have with ourselves over what is acceptable. Like if you look at our society, it's not set up for working parents. Um, our extended families live farther apart than they did like in the 50s. So my parents live in Illinois. My sister and her family live in Iowa City. I am in Minneapolis, Minnesota. My husband's family is like 30 minutes away. Like we're not close like we used to be. Everybody's kind of all spread out. The school day ends hours before the work day does, which before in the 50s, 60s, when the majority of women were staying at home, it was acceptable because there was some place for your kid to go. And now, we're finding that most households need two incomes to live. And so, like, one of the questions that the author points out is she says, the better question, a better use of our emotional energy as mothers is this: how do we change those circumstances to help new parents feel supported so they can make compromises they're comfortable with? Mom guilt is really all about recognizing who you are, and I talk about this in my book. You need to recognize who you are, what makes you tick, and what makes you happy. Outside of being a mom, I love being a mother. It is the greatest and most frustrating thing I have ever done in my life. Um, what makes me tick, what makes me feel alive is being able to encourage and help other people see and reach their full potential. And so part of the way I've done that is by having a blog and talking to you guys. I truly love this because, and I don't know who's listening to this and who isn't, but I am assuming and hoping that you are listening and you are gaining some sense of encouragement to embrace who you are and to become the best version of yourself. And so with that and knowing and understanding how you tick comes a compromise. So for my husband and I, when my blogging and writing career kind of started to take off, we had to reevaluate how we did things in our home. We had to make a compromise. I had to make a compromise. And I talked about this, I think in season 1. Yeah, it was in season 1 where I realized that I was not a stay-at-home mom anymore. And I was operating on this, tank half, almost empty. I was operating on this, very drained part of my life where I was trying to do everything I had done before as a stay-at-home mom. The cooking, the cleaning, entertaining the kids, keeping up with laundry, everything that goes with that. And then also I was writing a book, maintaining and keeping up with my blog. I was starting to record the podcast, which, took a long time to learn how to do. And I was living these two lives, but I still had this mindset that I had to be and operate like a stay-at-home mom, but I wasn't. I worked from home. And what was normal for my work day and would not be normal for the next mom. I sometimes people ask me, oh my gosh, I can't believe you wrote a book. When you had little children, how did you do it? And I am completely honest, and I'll be honest with you too. They watched a ton of TV, an obscene amount of TV when I was writing. I also paid my middle daughter to entertain and watch the baby. I think she got I think it was like a quarter an afternoon. So I structured my day so that in the mornings we did fun things. In the afternoons I was working. And that worked pretty good. But I felt guilty about it still. Until I kind of made the decision, you know what? No, this is a decision that I'm making. And I love being a mother, but I also love helping women. And I'm not going to feel bad about that. And you shouldn't feel bad about it too. Obviously there are forms of guilt that are acceptable, is my kid eating too much junk food? I feel kind of guilty because they're eating too much junk food. That's probably a good sense of guilt that you should have. The sense of guilt that I think you need to be careful of is when you're looking on social media. For example, you're looking at Pinterest, Instagram especially, and you're seeing these beautifully laid out photos with these beautiful houses. And I feel guilty too, guys. You're not the only one. And I'm friends with some of these influencers too. And you think, gosh, my life should look like that. Look at how happy the kids are. They never fight. She never talks about them, getting into arguments. Or, look, it looks like they're having so much fun. All they do is sing and dance all day long. And isn't that just so great? And no matter how many times you hear that social media is somebody else's highlight reel, it's so hard to get the image of what you think motherhood should look like out of your brain when you've seen it so many different times a day. Whether it's Instagram or Pinterest, Facebook, if anybody's using Facebook anymore. I might be the only old school person using Facebook, but it's what I grew up with. Not really grew up with though. I was on Facebook in the very beginning when you had to have a .edu email address to get on it. I think we need to recognize that for every single picture that we see, and I will post a photo. Actually, when you guys listen to this, go to my Instagram account. It's Bert M. Anderson. And find a photo that has my 3 children sitting in a wagon. It is an adorable photo. I love it. I made it into a canvas, and it's like one of the first things you see when you come into my house. And they look so happy, and they're like both kind of playing with the baby. Um, would you believe though, like it was like a blink of an eye before that, the photographer captured that picture. The baby was trying to climb out of the wagon, and she was crying and screaming because she didn't like being in there. My middle child was, I don't know, she was I think throwing leaves because it was the fall, and she was like throwing leaves at her brother, and her brother was putting leaves in her hair, and they were trying to make the baby happy, but they were also trying to annoy each other. I mean, it was honest to goodness like a mess. But you look at this picture and it's perfect. Perfect. Everybody looks great and they're getting along, and aren't my children just so wonderful? No, actually, I was amazed when I saw the proofs from the photographer, and I remember saying to her, like, holy cow, how did you get this picture? Because this was not a good situation. Like, this whole picture with the kids on the ground and Kira, my youngest, sitting in the wagon was pretty bad. It was a pretty miserable experience for all of us. And she was just like, I just keep snapping until you get something good. And that's what I want you guys to remember, and that's what I want myself to remember as we're looking at TikTok and, Instagram and Pinterest. Like, those are just snapshots. Like, blinks of an eye into somebody else's world. And maybe it is, maybe it's curated. Maybe, I know some influencers who have photographers, and they will plan shoots with different clothes and, different things that they're doing, and they'll photograph all of those things in one day, but you will continue seeing those photos. I do the same thing. When I am on a trip, I take a ton of photos. I don't post them all at once, but I'll use them later for content. And I think we need to recognize that what we're seeing on social media 100% is not real life. Unless you follow some people who are very real. I'll put some accounts that I recommend, other than my own, in the notes of moms who are very real with who they are and how things are going. But we have to be willing to look at our compromises and be okay with that. So how do we do this? That is an excellent question. I think some of it belongs in the camp of understanding what your values are and what is important to you, and then kind of like staying in that lane. Surrounding yourself with friends who have the same values as you. Let's say your child excels at dance. So you get into the dance mom world. You are going to become friends with other moms who are dance moms. And that's okay. You know, sometimes you get a ton of questions from older people, especially like I remember when my kids were little. I got questions from older moms all the time about how many activities my children were in. And we kind of relate to the activity thing. I would like to say that it's because I am really wise and just an excellent person, but really I was lazy and didn't feel like handling the schedule of it all. And if you listened to episode 1, you know exactly what I'm talking about because I talked about the Google Calendar. But I felt kind of bad because I was like, nothing. They're They're not dancing. Nope, we don't do piano lessons either. Shoot, I should probably do that, huh? But some of this for me, and I don't know, I don't think I'm selfish, but mental health is a huge thing for me. And because I struggle with depression, I look at the schedule and the stress from the lens of how is this going to affect me mental health wise? So that's my value, is my own mental health, because I'm not a good mom when I am stressed out, running all over creation and feeling depressed. I'm just not. I'm not a good mom. So find friends who have the same kind of value that you do. Not the same kind of value. We're all valuable. They have the same values as you do. I think you also need to understand that there are people who are going to disagree with you, and they are going their values in what is important in your child's life or how you parent. You're going to come in contact with those people all the time, and you need to be, okay with standing in your decision and being confident about the decision that you're making. If you're working outside of the home and you come across a mom who makes you just kind of feel guilty all the time because you're not at home with your kids, you could argue with that person, which is not going to work, because if you're not going to change your mind, chances are that mom's not going to change her mind either. Or you can just, and you don't even have to say this to the person, you can just agree to disagree and just keep it to yourself. It's like, okay, noted. That person doesn't like that I work. So I will just take everything that they say in regards to my parenting style with a grain of salt. The other thing too, and I read this really good article on Healthline about what is mom guilt. And one of the things that it brought up is that, you need to look at your kids, and look at whether or not your decisions are working. What areas you should feel guilty about, shouldn't. If you have, especially if you have a young child who is constantly begging to play with you, and play with you while like you're working, rather than feel guilty that you're working, especially if you're working from home, rather than feel guilty about that, schedule a time to play with them one-on-one. I did that with my oldest because I heard a speaker talk about scheduling this like one-on-one child-led play time. And it was 15 minutes, and I would set the timer and say, okay, this is Brennan's time. And, I would play whatever he wanted to play for 15 minutes, no questions asked. And I just went along with it. I spent many, many days running around in circles, pretending to be a train from Thomas the Tank Engine. But I was able to go back and do the work that I needed to do. At the time, I was a social media manager for a brand, and it was a great way of satisfying his need for attention, and it was a great way for me to not feel like constantly guilty that I wasn't doing enough or being enough. And then the other thing that I think we need to do too is you need to look at your parents, and hopefully you had really great parents. You need to look at them and look at the decisions that they made and decide, did it bother you or did you not really notice anything different. I grew up in the military, so my family moved every 2 to 3 years. Um, every once in a while when I talk to people and I, tell them that, they're like, "Oh my gosh, that must have been like so hard. Like I could never do that to my family." And I will be honest with you, staying in one place is the weirdest thing ever. It's not what I'm used to. Your kids don't know anything different, is what I'm trying to say. As long as you are loving them, you are putting, you know, time and energy into building a relationship, into raising good human beings, they don't know any different. If you are, a working mom and you have to send your kid to daycare, that's normal for that kid. If you are a stay-at-home mom and you're with your children all the time, it's completely normal for your kids. It's all they know. And I think we forget about that. So I think we have to combat this mom guilt thing, guys. I mean, I think we can embrace it and joke about it, but I think we need to stop using it as an excuse to accept things just the way they are, kind of make ourselves feel guilty because that's what we should do. And instead, I think we need to start trusting our gut, our intuition, and looking at our kids and whether or not they're happy. Do my kids wish I would spend a ton of time with them? I'm sure they do. The youngest does. She's young still. Um, for some reason, my son, he's 12 and a half and he wants to have a deep conversation every day at 10 o'clock at night. Every single day. But at least he's still talking to me because he could just be ignoring me and he's not, though. So I think you need to accept your values and understand where they are, and then stand firm in that decision, especially when you come in contact with others who are critical or may do things differently than you. So do a little soul searching, grab a journal, write out the things that are important to you, figure out what makes you tick, what makes you feel alive, and then go from there. And above all else, be kind to yourself. Always be kind. And it is that time in our show when we watch, or just kidding, we're not watching this because you guys are listening to this. When you guys listen to What's Bert Watching, I feel like we should have like a song.
I know.
Da da da. Anyways, What's Bert Watching with Sarah and her opinions.
I have them.
She has them because she only watches soccer.
Okay, well, it's true, so I can't ignore that fact.
It's true, but we love her, and that's why we're doing this, because it's a community effort to educate Sarah.
Thanks, guys. I feel the love.
So today I want to talk about family-friendly shows that you can watch with your children. A lot of the shows that I watch, I do not watch with my kids because they're not ready for it yet, and I don't want to share TV shows with them yet. So
Very, very wise.
Yeah, it's good to have things that are your own. They don't need to be involved in everything. So a absolute favorite of my family's is Lego Masters on Fox. Super
Oh my
fun.
God, cool.
Have you seen it?
I mean, I have played the Lego video games.
Okay, that is a start.
That's where I'm at.
Well, It is, so it's on Fox, so it's airing like in seasons currently. So you don't have to, have like Netflix or something like that to watch it. You can watch it on Hulu after the fact, after seasons. It is so good though, because so what they do is there are two judges, and then Will Arnett is the host, and he's hilarious. Because he voiced Batman in the Lego movie. And
Oh, very cool.
every once in a while he'll pull out his "I'm Batman" thing. But the masters they are competing in teams of two, and they usually have like a fun dynamic and story. Like some of them are partners that are like engineers. I think this season there are two professors on there. There was a father son that were on there. There were some twins. I think they were identical twins actually. I get mixed up in my head, but they have these crazy, insane challenges, and they have to, I mean, it's like any challenge type game that you would watch on TV.
Oh my god, I love game shows.
Yeah, so, they show like they have a certain amount of time to complete some type of a crazy task. It might be something like you have to design a parade float that incorporates movement, and it's all made out of Legos.
Holy, that's a lot of Legos.
Yes,
Oh
there
my god, I'm
was
gonna watch this.
you need to. There was one where they had to design a hat, and they had to wear this hat, and it had to be like a certain height, and they had to walk like down a runway almost. And the hat had to stay on their head. They could not be touching it or holding it.
Okay, I need some. I just actually want a Lego hat.
It These hats were like amazing.
Okay, like now I'm a little inspired to make a Lego hat.
I would like to see your Lego hat.
I would really do. I could take that very far.
You could. So yeah. So Lego Masters.
I'm in on that. That sounds really good.
Yep, Lego Masters on Fox. My next suggestion is Nailed It. It's on Netflix. It's very funny. So it's based on Pinterest. I don't know if you've seen any of the Pinterest fails pictures. They're kind of all over the internet.
Like
Have
a
you
food? I've seen like the food
Yes.
ones.
Yes. Yeah. So like, ooh, I did this picture, or I tried this and I nailed it, and it's like completely not even remotely close.
I I love a
Yeah.
good fail.
Yes.
Yes.
So that is the premise of Nailed It. So they take home bakers who have just like a really really bad track record trying to recreate like very fancy cakes and or cookies. Um and they're all competing for a $10,000 prize. So it's really good,
I have to
super
be on
funny.
that show. I think I would
Um,
do really good at failing that.
yeah, you can submit a tape. Nicole Byer is the host. She's hilarious. There's this guy named Jacques Torres. He is a French pastry chef. He's one of the judges, and then they always have like a guest celebrity judge.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So there's usually two or three, and it's usually like really insane things. Like the first is usually like a cupcake. The first competition is usually like a cupcake or a cookie, and it's very complicated. And the things that these people put together are just really terrible.
Okay, I also like the sound of this one. Maybe I'm secretly a child because I like all of these
They're It's
suggestions.
so much fun. I love shows that you can just sit and laugh to.
Yes, me too.
Yes, it's just great. So that is that show.
That
Nailed It
sounds great.
on Netflix. There are 6 seasons of it. They have like a Christmas season too. So
Dang.
yeah, it's been on for a long time. My kids will watch that over and over and over again, even though they know like the outcome with every single episode. So I don't know why they watch it over again, but they love it.
Sounds like it's just a good vibe.
Yeah, it is a good vibe.
I think I would just want to make Jacques really mad at me with my.
Yes, he's very funny. Oh, and I've almost forgot the best part. The best part is that the person who wins, like the first challenge, oh no, actually, the person who loses, who does the worst in the first challenge, will be able to kind of like give a disadvantage to the people who did better than them.
Oh, that's cool.
On the first. So one of them could be like, Jacques will come and like talk to them in like French and distract them for like 3 minutes. Or Nicole may come and do stand up.
Oh, funny.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
Very fun.
That's very fun.
Yes. So yeah, so that's nailed it. And then my third, last but not least, it is an oldie but a goodie. You can find the episodes on Netflix, or no, on Hulu. But we have been watching Family Matters with my kids, like from the 90s. You remember Steve Urkel?
Yes.
I'm
a big fan.
Yes.
I have a lot of feelings about Family Matters.
It is such a great, wholesome show.
It really is.
It's so good. My kids love it. And they like will sit down and they're like, oh my gosh, let's watch Family Matters. And we'll just like keep watching and watching and watching and watching. And there's just a lot of really good, like, you know, social justice.
Right.
You know, like a lot of good like talking points in it too. Which I really appreciate. But the humor is great. You don't have to worry from a like my kindergartner, or actually she's a first grader now. She can watch it and I don't have to worry about watching it first, you know, to like screen it to make sure there's nothing bad, you know? It's hard
because it was actually made with the intent to watch with your family.
Yeah, because it was part of, I don't know, what year were you born?
88.
Okay, so you may remember this. Do you remember on ABC, it was Friday night, it was called TGIF?
Yes.
Yes, and so like Full House, Family Matters, Step by Step. It was like the thing to do was to sit and watch that block of TV with your family.
Totally.
And so that was like the thing, was to sit and watch these TV shows all together as a family. So it was made, you know, for kids and parents in mind.
And then everyone was watching it so you could like talk about it at school the next day.
Exactly.
Now there's like so much media, like nobody can connect on anything.
I know.
I also remember during that block, Channel 7 had Gilmore Girls on.
Oh, yes.
So I like switched. And then I would stay up late and watch Xena Warrior Princess, my very favorite show.
Oh, Xena.
And Hercules with Minnesota Kevin Sorbo. That was my...
Yes.
I'm a sci-fi nerd at heart.
Hey, I like sci-fi too. I totally understand. Do you look at Xena now, though, and think like, oh, she's not actually as strong as I thought she was?
I have not checked in with her, I don't think. I don't know what I would think.
Look at old clips of her and you'd be like, oh, she doesn't have that many muscles.
That's funny. Well, it's her personality that's really strong.
It is. She has a strong heart.
Yes. I really want to be here for Halloween this year.
You should.
I know, right?
So that's all I got for you with our family-friendly What's Bert Watching.
That was awesome.
So enjoy it, guys. Let us know if you're watching any of these things and if you have any suggestions.
Yes. Please let us know. Okay, thank you, Bert.
Yep, bye.
Bye.
And that is a wrap, guys. Thank you so much for listening. And in case you're wondering, Me Before Mom is hosted by me, Bert Anderson. And it is produced by the lovely and talented Sarah Abdel All. You can also check out Matriarch DM for all of the show notes, as well as other amazing podcasts for women, by women. And don't forget to check out my own website, bertmanderson.com, so you can see what's going on in my world. Thank you so much for listening, and I will see you guys next time.